Uh,
Yes,
I, okay, but I met you at the Columbus program, right?
yes, yes,
Okay,
we did. Yeah, yes.
I should have your information.
Hopefully.
It's all right. Whatever you have, Ronell, it's good. We'll work it out, Prabhu. It's not a big.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Well, it is currently 6 p.m. Well, 7
7,
p.m.
my time, yeah. So we'll
I'm
go ahead and get
essential.
started.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'll go with my introductory prayers. Hey, Sri Guru, Dinabandhu, Ganadas, Wananda Datta Kuruna, Kosindu, Vrindavana Sina Avatar, Prasida Shirara Pranaya Prachara, Ajanulambito Pujo, Kanakavarato, Sankirtanai Kapitaro, Kamla Taksho, Vishwambro, Dvito, Yugadama Palo, Vande Jagapia Karo Karana Avataro, Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya, Hemanda Vatsha, Vishandaraya, Tasmai Mahapremara Shapadaya, Shri Chaitanya Chandraya, Namo Namaste. Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams. Hare Bhakta Ranel.
Yes, thank you. Well, welcome everyone to Bhakti Moons. This is our class today. I'm the near impossible task of filling in for Harry Namananda, who's currently traveling. And we are so fortunate. For those that are your first time coming, welcome. Welcome to Bhakti Moons. We're so blessed and so thankful to have you here. And for those that are returning, welcome back. And we are definitely going to have a wonderful, we've had some enlivening classes and lectures, discussions. The association has been very, very beautiful. And we want to continue on. Today, we have with us, Shriman Mukunda Das Adhikari. His Grace Mukunda Prabhu was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and moved to New York at an early age. Growing up under the influence of his uncle, he learned yoga and meditation in his formative years. Upon graduating from Harlem Prep High School, he entered college and later decided to join the military. After his tour of military service, he restarted college in New York and pursued a successful music career. In 1972, he began attending the ISKCON Temple in Brooklyn, New York. In 1975, on a break from college, he decided to take a deeper dive into transcendental knowledge and moved into the ISKCON Temple in LA. Mukunda Prabhu attended the first ISKCON Bhakti program while living in the men's ashram. About a year later, he went back to college and resumed his music career in New York. Wow. In 1979, Mukunda Prabhu met His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. After their meeting, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj dispatched Mukunda Prabhu as one of the early preaching trailblazers to Africa. While in Africa between 1979 and 1987, Mukunda Prabhu took a deep study of Srila Prabhupada's books. He was able to bring many devotees to the path of bhakti in West and Central Africa while opening temples in Ghana, Nigeria, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. In 1987, Mukunda Prabhu returned to America. 1986, excuse me. Mukunda Prabhu returned to America and assisted His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami with the establishment of the Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology, IFAST, in Washington, D.C. Mukunda Prabhu suggested His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami use the name Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology after a preaching program at Howard University. After working to help support the IFAST project, Mukunda Prabhu embarked on his second career in law enforcement and retired from law enforcement 20 years later. Okay. In 1986, Mukunda Prabhu met his eternal Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj. Under the Gurudev's guidance, he entered in an in-depth study of Vaishnavism and the writings of the previous acharyas. He and his devoted wife, Mohini, I want to say that right,
Mohini.
Mohini, excuse me. He and his devoted wife, Mohini, took the vow of Vanaprastha and retired to Alachua, Florida. Currently, under the order of his Guru Dev, he alongside his wife continued traveling to share the science of bhakti. Inspired by senior devotees, Mukunda Prabhu has begun accepting disciples in accordance with Srila Guru Dev's orders, sharing the profound teachings of the Brahma Madhva Veda Sampradaya. Thank you very much. And any errors, please forgive me if any errors are made, and please correct me. Thank
No,
you.
and I'm always embarrassed to even have these kind of things
Right,
read. But
it's amazing.
my sort of guardians always insisting I try to deal with these kind of things. But
yes,
let's take advantage of our time and try to discuss some of the deep science around bhakti. I was really happy actually the last couple of weeks that I've been able to come on, well, at least last Thursday and Friday, I was able to make both of those classes for Bhakti Vasudev Swami and then for Chandra Prabhu. And I thought I was really inspired. I'm also just inspired by yourself and Harinamananda and the outreach that you're trying to do, especially. Of course, a great part of my entire portfolio in Bhakti has been around Africa and the African American community.
yes, yes.
So it's an interesting thing because I think there's no accidents in the world. And I think it's always very special how we receive a particular commission in our karmic package to do certain things.
Yes.
And quite frankly, I remember my uncle, when I was studying yoga and meditation under him, we were young, obviously. And when I got to my teenage years, you know, sports, athletics, girls, all that becomes more important. And I remember him telling me, no, you still got to kind of keep your focus. And my elder brother also was pushing me. And my uncle one day just told me, he said, you know, if you stay spiritually situated, because by that time I'd also gotten into Afrocentricity very deeply. So I was like giving him the arguments that, you know, what will all this spiritual stuff do for the African community, and hitting him with Franz Fanon and a bunch of other stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he told me. He said, listen, if you understand who you really are, you'll do amazing things for your people.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Wow.
So, you know, I took that, you know, grain of salt at the time, but over the course of time, it's like a flower, it's budded in my heart. And after having obviously gone to Africa and, you know, like doing a deep study into the science of bhakti, and all the studies of antiquity are similar in the sense that they all were spiritual synthesis between our external life and our internal life. It's only contemporary society where you find that separation, right? Even the idea of a separation of church and state is certainly a material idea. It's not a spiritual one.
Right.
But that being said, for those who've taken to the practice of the science of bhakti, we need to be clear that our spiritual mentorial succession, our Guru Parampara, our line of gurus, has given voluminous amount of information to help us understand the science of the self. Sometimes devotees have been diligent in taking up that study, sometimes not so much because maybe they look at it and think it's very daunting to have to study so many things and so forth. But on the other hand, anything that's truly worthwhile attaining is worthwhile putting in the effort to attain it. So I've always been very much a stickler, not for just gaining information, because in spiritual life, it's not information, it's realization. You understand? There's a big difference. So I wanted to speak a little bit tonight about the nature of the soul, the nature of who we are, and how the beginning of spiritual science works. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Madhya Lila, which is the middle section of that writing, there's a conversation between Lord Chaitanya. I don't think I need to explain who Lord Chaitanya is on the phone. Everybody knows that, right? So between Lord Chaitanya and Sanatana Goswami, who is one of our spiritual mentors. In that conversation, Sanatana Goswami asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu two questions. Keami, Kenyamai, Jare Tapatrai. The first question is Keami, who am I? The second question is Kenyamai, Jare Tapatrai. So he says, and tell me why Tapatrai means, am I suffering under the influence of the three modes of material nature? So this question when it arises in the heart of any person, is the symptom that their spiritual impressions from previous lives or their great fortune of entrance into the spiritual domain has begun. Simply on this question, who am I? Because this question is indicative of having doubt about my simple material existence. I can't just be this karmic package, this body, belonging to this family, this situation, socially, etc. There's got to be more to my existence than this. So that question is key. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him an answer to answer both questions. Jivera Sarup Oye Krishnera Nitya Das. In terms of who are you, Mahaprabhu answered, you are the Das of Krishna. So here this word Das means that by constitution, we all have a relationship with God as his part and parcel, and the very nature of being the part and parcel of God is indicative of a loving relationship, which is called dasa. In Sanskrit, the word dasa means servant. But here the context is not material servitude, but it is rather the bond of love in which the ideal of who is God is recognized and who am I in relation to God. You understand? So this is called dasatva. So ultimately, there's a natural servant-master relationship here, but that relationship is imbued with love. You understand? So he says, Jiva Sukhaya Krishna Nitya Das. But then the question arises, well, why am I suffering?
Right.
Now, it's an interesting question because nobody questions, why is everything going good for me? Why am I enjoying so much? Why is everything working out for me? Nobody ever asked that question.
Right.
Right? But when it comes to suffering, people look for causation. Why am I suffering? What did I do wrong? Or who's persecuting me, or whatever it might be. But we look for causation when it comes to suffering. So he's asking, Kenemi Jaritapatrai, why am I suffering? So then Mahaprabhu answers wonderfully. He says, Krishnera Tatashta Shakti Beda Abeda Prakash. He says, you are an energy of God. Krishnera Tatashta Shakti. The word Shakti means an energy. God has unlimited energies. We're one of those energies. What kind of energy? Tatashta. The word in Sanskrit, tatashta, means a marginal energy. So what is marginal about the soul? Is that it can be influenced either by material energy, which is the external world, or it can be influenced by the internal spiritual energy. Now, anybody who's practicing bhakti has witnessed that dynamic. We've witnessed that we were either coming from, struggling with, in our progressive march towards material energy, we're leaving it and trying to enter into the spiritual paradigm. So we've recognized the idea that both material energy and spiritual energy have an influence on us. That position is called tatashta or marginal. Now, the thing is, the different energies have different influences. So the soul in Sanskrit is called Atma. Like in the tradition in Africa, one tradition there is called Ifa, right? And in that tradition, it's called Ru. Ori, right? In Islam, it's called Ru.
Ru.
Exactly. So in every culture of antiquity, there's recognition of this identity of the soul. So the soul or Atma is the individual.
Gotcha.
The energy spiritually that it's composed of is called Tatashta Shakti. Marginal energy. You understand?
Yes.
Now, that marginal energy has the ability, as I mentioned, to be influenced by the material external energy. But the interesting thing is that the soul is composed of completely spiritual energy. Everybody's heard this term that the soul is Sat, Chit, and Ananda.
Yes,
I'm sure everybody on the call has heard this term. So Sat means our existence is actually purely spiritual.
Okay.
Chit means we have the capacity, potentiality to have full knowledge of ourselves, God, and the relationship. Ananda means, in this particular case, that in the soul, there is no misery.
Mhm.
So by one of our spiritual mentors, Jiva Goswami, he gave 21 characteristics of the soul. And one of them is called Chit Ananda Atmaka. It means in the soul, it's conscious and there is dukkha pratiyogita. There's no misery in the soul. So that brings up the question, if there's no misery in the soul, where's misery coming from?
All right, all right, all right.
You understand? If the
Yeah.
misery is not in the soul, because the soul is by nature spiritual,
Mhm.
where is the misery coming from? So the next in causation view we may take is, well, the misery is in the material energy. But frankly speaking, the material energy is also an energy of God.
Yes.
It's written in Bhagavad Gita. He says, this is my energy. So we can't assess that misery is in an energy of God. But just like with chemicals, if you take two chemicals, those chemicals, when they're separated in their own constitution, there's no issue. But if you mix them together, you can get a volatile or a toxic situation.
Mhm.
Understand?
Yes.
Similarly, when the soul, which is constituted of spiritual nature, Satchidananda, has relationship vicariously with the material energy of the 5 elements and the 3 subtle elements, that causes a toxic environment called avidya.
Mm. Okay.
Avidya means, the word vidya means knowledge or consciousness. Avidya means the absence of knowledge or consciousness about my own spiritual nature and identity and that of God. So that combination, which is a vicarious one, because actually the soul never touches the material energy.
Never.
It's written in scripture, asanga hi anyam purusha. Purusha is just another description of the soul. Asanga, it never touches the material energy. So the relationship with the material energy is vicarious. In the same way, if you watch a movie on a TV screen or on some movie screen, and the characters come on, and you give emotional investment into that movie, the plot, the characters, you will go along for the ride of that whole plot, the characters, who's good, who's bad, who shouldn't go in the haunted house, all of that.
Right,
You understand? In the same way, Jiva Goswami wrote, Eka Rupa Sarupa Bhav. The soul stays situated in its own nature, but it is vicariously via the chitta, which is like a sheet of consciousness, identifying with the external world.
Right.
So now that material energy is giving off a toxic arrangement called avidya. So one of the first things that the avidya, the toxicity of this avidya shakti does, is it gives us a false sense of identity of being something that we're actually not. So we already know from the answer that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave, we're the Das of Krishna. But the first feature of this avidya shakti is asmita. The word asmi means I am.
Mhm.
That's what the word means, I am. Now, in the 8 elements I described earlier in the material world, there are 3 subtle elements. One is called the mental function, one is called the intellectual function, and one is called the false egoism or self-conception. It's called ahamkara. The literal translation of this word ahamkara is I am the karna, cause, and karata, doer. You understand?
Yes.
So actually, the nature of the soul is das, of God, and God is actually the cause and doer of everything. But when this avidya shakti takes place, asmita arises, the mental and intellectual functions tie into the ahamkara and makes us think, no, I'm the cause and I'm the doer. And therefore, by organic follow-up, I'm the enjoyer. That's how the jiva develops a tendency for enjoying the external world or exploiting it.
Got it.
Understand?
Yes.
So this is all coming from avidya. Now, when this avidya takes place, duality arises. In the soul, there's also no duality. You understand?
Yes.
Because the duality is situated in spiritual energy, which is one thing. It's not a dual thing. But as soon as it becomes influenced by the material energy, duality arises. So in the avidya shakti, or the potency of ignorance, rag and dvesh, it means now I'm always avoiding those things which seem to give misery by this toxic combination, and I'm always searching out to find ananda or happiness because it's an intrinsic part of my nature.
Mhm.
That's why in the material world, people experience happiness, sadness, and all these different dualities. Understand?
Yes, yes.
So now there's one more feature in this Avidya Shakti. It is called Abhinavesh. The word Abhinavesh means even though we are spiritual by nature, once we have connection vicariously with this material energy, there's an absorption in it that we can't extricate ourselves from.
Okay.
That's why people are fully convinced I am this body. You understand? And each body, according to karma, gets a particular what's called upadi. Upadi is the particular karmic iteration any person is in. My name is John Doe. I was born to Sally Doe and Bob Doe. I was born in this country,
Gotcha.
and this is my karmic package in this life.
Right.
That's called an upadi. You understand?
Yes.
So all of those things work together to encapsulate the soul in an inextricable absorption in identifying with the material energy. Understand? The
Yes.
results of that is the duality, that there's the pursuit of happiness and the avoidance of misery. Understand? So now if we wanted to answer the question, where does misery come from? It's not in the Atma, and it's not in God's energy, even the material energy. It's in the vicarious toxic association of those two things together.
Yeah.
Any questions thus far? Is anybody, am I not clear about anything?
No. Anything, anyone?
Anything? Cool. Now, among all of those elements in the
Wait,
material
I have a
world,
question.
uh-huh,
I have a question.
uh-huh,
Oh.
How do we overcome that?
Sure.
it's a good question. I was getting ready to get into the root cause of that bondage. In the material energy, the root cause of our inextricable bond with it is called the ahamkara, which I've already explained what it means. Because the ahamkara is like the defensive mechanism for the material existence. You understand? It's what convinces you that I am this body. Because the mind only accepts and rejects things. That's the only thing the mental function does. The intelligence is like a database of all of your previous karma and the activities you're doing in this life, and it constantly cycles through things and offers them to the mind. You want to try this? Let's try this. Let's try that. And the mind is accepting and rejecting, but the false egoism is what makes you think I can choose whatever's going to be offered by the intelligence and enjoy it.
Okay.
Or I'm going to reject whatever's offered by the intelligence that may not be tasteful to me.
Where does the
Understand?
intelligence, where does the intelligence come from? If the mind
Intelligence is part of the subtle body.
yes.
We have two bodies. One is a gross body, which is made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And then there's a subtle body, which is made of that mental function, intellectual function, and then the ahamkar. So the material intelligence is a byproduct of ahamkar. And it's the ahamkara, and I'm coming to your question, Mark. So the ahamkara is where the three modes of material nature are attached. You understand? Goodness, passion, ignorance, they are attached to the ahamkara. So it's what's giving us a self-conception of action in one of those three divisions, either in the state of goodness, or in the state of passion, or in the state of ignorance, and they're never singular, so they're always mutating, right? Now, one may be prominent, right? Just as you move towards spiritual life, the mode of goodness or sattva becomes prominent.
Yes.
You understand? But all of those modes are coming from the influence of the ahamkara. Understand? So now, Jadavacharya's question was, how do we get out of that? The only way to get out of that is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Anadi avidya yuktasha. The connection with this avidya is anadi. The word anadi means it doesn't have a beginning. Purusha Shaveda Atmanam. So even though the soul has awareness of itself, because of this abhinavesha, it's inextricable. You can't get yourself out. So the third line says, Swato na sambhavanti. On your own, you can't extricate yourself. Anya, it requires another person. Who? Ganatva Ganadobhavet. That person who's situated in the transcendental side, in the spiritual side, and who by mercy is inclined to give you transcendental illumination to bring you out from the material energy. We call that person guru or sadhu.
Yeah.
You understand? Guru actually is a function. It's not a person. It's a function. A sadhu is the person who's doing that function.
Oh,
You understand?
I always thought they were one and the same. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, in a sense, because guru means gu shabdat andakarasha. The word gu means darkness or ignorance. Ru shabdat andakarasha nirodita. That person who by illumination removes darkness is doing the function called guru.
Yeah.
A sadhu is a person, sadnoti sadayati cha Krishna prem iti sadhu. A person who's realized the absolute truth is called a sadhu. He performs the function out of mercy of doing the function called guru.
Mm.
Because no sadhu thinks I'm guru. Because that's simply another self-conception that will be attached to false ego.
Right.
You
Right.
understand?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I do. I do.
It's another upadi. Like I'm a great singer, I'm a great scholar, I'm a great builder, I'm a great anything. It's the ahamkara or false ego that takes all these adjectives and designations and attaches it to your self-conception.
Right.
What is your original self-conception? Jivera Swarupoya Krishna Nitya Das.
Das.
That's my actual identity. Understand?
Yes. Yes. One plus.
So, Jadavacharya, to answer your question, when a person meets the sadhu, the first influence, it's called a prabhav, the first influence coming from the heart of the association of a sadhu is called shraddha or faith. Faith has a potency. Faith is not just an emotion, right? Faith is a power, it's a potency, right? Just like even biblically, they talk about faith has the power to move mountains.
Right.
Well, actually, in the Vedic cosmology, it's mentioned about faith, shraddha, which is the word for faith in Sanskrit, shraddha anupayani varajam bhakti unmukhi chittavritti visesh. Faith has the power to take where formerly your energy was pointed towards the material energy, to take it and turn it towards the spiritual dimension. That's the power in faith. That faith comes from the influence of association of a sadhu. Understand?
Yes.
So that's how you get out of it, by sadhu sangha. So I've already explained what the word sadhu means. Now that sadhu may become guru for you, maybe another sadhu may become guru, or you have your guru, like of course Yadavacharya, you should have Prabhupada Sishya, right? So that sadhu's influence is where the power to extricate from the material energy comes from. Now, that faith is only the way to break the absorption of material energy. It does not give the fullness of realization. It allows you to break the absorption in the material energy. Now, when that faith, which is a currency, like a currency now, when that currency is now deposited in the sadhu, then that currency of faith has the power to elevate you in the spiritual paradigm. So let me explain what I mean. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has written one book called Madhurya Kandamini. It's a manual of how spiritual elevation takes place. So he says, Ado Shraddha, first there will be this faith, which is the power coming from the influence of a sadhu. If that sadhu becomes guru, then it becomes the prominent connection you have in giving illumination that breaks the darkness of ignorance. Understand? Now, that faith, once it's deposited in the sadhu, becomes the fuel or the propulsion into the spiritual dimension. Because I mentioned that we're all the Das of Krishna. But being the Das of Krishna is not your individual spiritual identity. It's your constitutional identity. It's the same thing as saying everyone here on this conference is a human being. But on this conference of human beings, there's Bhakti Ranal, there's Yadavacharya, Ishopanishad, Bhakti Lata. You understand? So there's individuality. So we have not only a constitutional identity, Das of Krishna, but we have an individual spiritual relation identity with Krishna. Now, only through bhakti does that individual spiritual identity become revealed. You can take up many other spiritual paths, and those paths will reveal that you're not a byproduct of the material energy.
Right.
And you will realize the nature of the soul being free from misery. It is called Atma Ananda. or in Buddhism, nirvana. You understand? When you realize that I'm not part of the material byproduct, this material energy, there's an instantaneous realization of the absence of misery connected to the material world. So that natural ananda coming from the soul is called Atmananda.
Wow.
Understand? But
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is not the ananda or bliss that comes from relation and love of God. Because ananda has been described. Anandam buddhi vardhanam, pratipadam purna amrita swadanam. Ananda is an ever-growing thing. It only reaches its pinnacle when it is established in the loving relationship with God. That's the pinnacle of the function of Ananda. That pinnacle is called Prem.
Hmm.
You understand?
Yes.
Just like I'm giving an example within the material world. If you are situated materially, you're not struggling or anything, and so forth and so on, you don't have any problems. But the happiness that comes from not experiencing economic distress or health distress or anything else can't be compared to the happiness of having found the ideal mate, having a wonderful family, etc., etc. You understand?
Yes, yes, yes.
So
You just,
there's an extra added bliss that grows from the nature of loving relationships, whether they be friendships, even in our parental dealings, what to speak of conjugal dealings. Now, what to speak of those things in the spiritual paradigm, which are in relation to God. So the fraternal relationship with God, that's what the meaning of Mother Yashoda and Maharaj Nanda is. The fraternal relationship with God, that's what the cowherd boys are. The conjugal love with Krishna, that's what the gopis are. And the head of all the gopis, Radharani, is the pinnacle of that love towards Krishna in that mood. Then, so the science gets really deep, but we're just trying to get from the material side into the spiritual paradigm.
yes,
That's
yes,
that's the first thing. You understand?
yes.
This first section of spiritual study is called Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha means, what is my relational situation to God?
Right.
So the first part of that is established by coming to what's called Samanya Sambandha Gyan, which is the idea I'm the Das of Krishna. Now, the thing is, that is constitutional. You can't change it. The scripture says, Dasa Bhuti Harieva, Nanyasha Eva Karacha. You can't be something else.
Right.
And the attempt to be something else is what's called Maya or illusion.
Got it. Got
You
it.
understand?
Yes,
So that's a constitutional reality. I'm the Das of Krishna.
yes.
But the question here is that bhakti affords not only to become constitutionally situated in your identity, but to become specifically situated in an identity in relation to Krishna. Understand?
Yes.
Any questions so far on any of these things?
Anyone?
Very good question, Dhanavacharya Prabhu. Ishopanishad?
Okay.
This is wonderful, Prabhu. You keep doing exactly what you're doing.
Well, thank you for your inspiration. You're a senior for me, and you give me your blessing.
You could speak on,
That concept of senior or junior doesn't really exist in this relationship because I've realized that we don't know who we were or what we were before we came into this material existence. I am convinced that after seeing and hearing devotees like yourself, that whatever else is going on in the material world, that you are explaining this in a very, I would say, transcendentally enunciated way. And that means that anybody, regardless of their background or character, will easily understand the science of Krishna consciousness because you are explaining it exactly like Srila Prabhupada wanted it to be explained. So I offer my most humble obeisances to you.
yes.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your blessing.
You're
Isho?
Jai Hare Krishna.
Hey, Krishna.
Haribo, Haribo, Isho.
Jai, I just wanted to say thank you for that wonderful explanation for Guru and Sadhu.
Yeah, it's very important because if a person has the mood that I'm a guru, that will also become attached to the false ego, and it will become another source of pride and so forth and so on, and it will obfuscate being able to realize I'm the Das of Krishna. Understand?
Well, with that being said, Prabhu, now that brings up a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Since I'm looking and seeing that ISKCON, they now have a whole program in place to make people become initiated gurus.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I read some of what they consider qualifications to become guru.
Mm-hmm.
And if I read what Srila Prabhupada said as guru,
Mm-hmm.
then how is it that they are becoming guru by proxy?
I've got some reticence about going down tracks, but I will say what Srila Prabhupada has written in his books is the standard of what it means to be guru. The guru has to have some realization. If he or she does not have some realization of their own internal identity, it is very difficult to communicate that spiritual energy to the disciple for the disciple's realization to blossom. Now, the function of guru can also be departmentalized. There's something called Vatma Padakshak Guru. It means anybody who points on the path how you can make the next step. They may or may not be a realized person, but they're pointing out, oh, listen, if you chant, it will be very helpful. If you go to see this sadhu, it will be helpful. If you read this book, it will be helpful. That is called Vatma Padakshak. Padakshak means steps, and Vatma means the path. So those who point out how to step on the path, that's one feature of guru. Then there is Siksha Guru. Siksha Guru, those should have some realization because they have to be able to communicate what your Diksha Guru would be able to communicate. Understand? A good example of this is Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur. His Harinam Guru was Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his own father. But his actual Diksha Guru was Gorkashodas Babaji. Understand? So we won't make a separation between Gorkashodas Babaji and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. They're both established on the same transcendental level. Understand?
Yeah.
Similarly, the Diksha Guru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur was Bipin Bihari Goswami. But his Shiksha Guru, who's prominent in his life, was Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. So in his biography, Swalikata Jivani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives honor to Bipin Bihari Goswami. But the most prominent feature of illumination in his life was Srila Jagannath Das Babaji. So sometimes the Shiksha Guru can be more prominent. Especially when once your guru enters samadhi, it may be that then you meet Siksha Guru, and that Siksha Guru may give the illumination that you were unable to catch at the time of your Gurudev's manifest presence. Okay?
Yes, I've heard that. And actually, when Bhaktivedanta Narayan was on the planet, I became very attached to him because it's sort of like the example of the father and the uncle.
Yeah, yes.
With the uncle, you can ask different questions and relate to him in a different way, as opposed to the spiritual father in Prabhupada. We had to form certain mindset to be able to humble ourselves in front of the spiritual master. And similarly, also with the Bhaktivedanta Narayan, I realized that he was explaining things that if Prabhupada would have had more time on this planet, he would have very elaborately explained a lot of details, but it wasn't it wasn't timely, and nor were we spiritually capable, especially understanding instructions or knowledge of Srimati Radharani. And I remember specifically that there was one devotee, I won't mention his name because he's no longer in the ISKCON per se, but he asked a very nice question one time. We were in Los Angeles in the Brahmachari ashram. He says, "Does anybody want to talk about Radharani?" And it was complete silence. And that's because none of us, even though we have been doing so many things spiritually and on such a wonderful platform, did not have the maturity or the knowledge base of learning and understanding that we were capable of discussing pastimes of Srimati Radharani. So with that said, I'm now appreciating that when I heard from Bhaktivedanta Narayan, that he was explaining activities of Krishna's pastimes in relationship with Radharani that was so nourishing and was so pure in explanations that it actually affected my Krishna consciousness to the point that I began to shed tears by hearing about Radharani, whereas because of my immaturity many, many years ago, I had no conception of what Radharani even was. So
yeah, you know, Srila Prabhupada, he was like the fulfillment of the prophecy of Mahaprabhu that the Harinam would spread throughout the world. And part of that was to capture those souls who had enough pious credits to enter the platform of bhakti, and then to utilize them as his arms, legs, and extensions to spread the mission all over the world. So there was a great emphasis on the preaching activity and proselytizing and devoting. Okay, so they were getting a lot of pious credit for those activities, but it didn't sometimes translate to then following up with those pious credits to get the association of realized souls who would go in and give details of what it was that Srila Prabhupada had written in his book. Because if you look in Srila Prabhupada's books, everything is there. If you just look in the 4th chapter of Adi Leela, everything regarding the highest domains of what Rupa Goswami explained in Ujjalinamani is written in the 4th chapter of Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. But it was just, it would be, you'd have to hear it from high class of devotees to then say, oh, here's how this works.
Right.
You understand? Ishopanishad?
Hare Krishna. Getting back to the Atma, the soul, and our marginal position. You said we're at the Tasta, we're like in between. So really, it's a phenomenal place to be in, because you have a choice. You can either dive into the material energy, or you can take advantage of the spiritual world. Am I correct with that thinking?
I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint of a secret, though. Actually, the living entity, it's not really a choice. It's that either one of those two energies is what carries the soul in a particular direction. Just like the currents of the ocean. If you get situated in the current as it's going out to low tide, and you're way out in the ocean, the tide will carry you out. Similarly, if you get caught in the tide coming in, it'll bring you in. Spiritual energy and material energy kind of work like that, because the soul's power is very minute compared to these two Shaktis of God. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, that verse is mentioned. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai kamani savasha ahamkara vimudatma katamiti manyate. The ahamkara makes me think, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm the doer. I'm doing it. But it says there, vimudatma. This is a bewilderment of the soul, because actually everything is being done by the modes of nature and its influence. Similarly, when you connect with the spiritual energy beginning with faith becomes the current that moves you along in the process. So all of the things in our practice have to be imbued with two things: faith and surrender. Part of the surrender is giving up the idea of being the controller and the doer.
Yes.
That's why when you wake up in the morning and you say pranams to your guru, the first thing you say is Nama. The word Nama means Na Ahamameti. I am not the doer, and it's not about me and mine.
Wow.
That's
what
the mean. That's
Kabbalah
an
is.
affirmation.
Yes.
So then in that position of surrender, the spiritual energy guides you along the path from faith to the association of a sadhu. The sadhu teaches you how to practice deeply. This is called bhajan. Then the Kriya Shakti, means the energy of God, enters to subsidize your practice since you're not the doer, and gives you the ability to practice the angas of bhakti. Understand? This is called bhajana kriya. When that bhajana kriya happens, the unwanted things in your life, they're called anarthas. Artha means value. Anartha means things have no value for your progress, are removed by the influence of the spiritual energy. So that's why devotees become confused. They think, I'm gonna work on myself and remove my problems, then I'll do bhakti.
Right.
No, you surrender and you get in the current, you do your chanting, do your morning program, do everything. The power in bhakti removes the unwanted things.
Wow.
You understand? And then your chitta means your consciousness will become nishta. Nishchalaya yashati nishta. That means it won't be vacillating back and forth between material and spiritual.
Wow. That's
Once the consciousness is placid, that time, the taste and the efficacy and the spiritual potency in your practice reveals itself on the chitta. And a taste comes. That taste is called ruchi. When that ruchi becomes mature, it becomes ruchi or taste in the actual relationship with the spiritual identity you're realizing and God. That stage is called ashakti. The final stage of practice is called bhav. At the time of bhav, the spiritual potency, which is the same potency in the spiritual world, it is called swarup shakti. Sandini, Samvitanaladini descend, and because the soul is Satchidananda, which means it's composed of the same thing, it's just that Satchidananda is not imbued with or doesn't have the power that's in the spiritual substance, Sandini, Samvitaladini. But now that potency merges with the Atma. And it's that Samvit Shakti, which then takes your chit, which means your cognizance, and fully unfolds it so you could realize what is the form of Krishna, what is the Dham, what is your own spiritual identity and everything. And the Ladini Vritti, the pleasure potency, gives you the fullest experience of Ananda in relation to love with Krishna. You understand?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a deep song.
Haribo. Hare Krishna.
Sometimes devotees mistake Satchidananda for Sambit Ladini Sandini. But if you had those three spiritual internal potencies, you would never be able to fall into Maya.
wow.
So the goal of the practice is to get to the stage where those three internal spiritual potencies, Sandini, Sambit, Ladini, merge with the Atma, which is composed of Satchidananda, and gives it full spiritual realization.
Hare Krishna. Haribo. Jai.
Very good, very good. So if you are at the beginning stages, and like you said, and you want to do better, you want to surrender, you have to do. And like you said, a lot of devotees, like a lot of people in general, like they say, well, I'm going to get right. I'm going to get off this and then I'm going to I got to make myself ready. I have a friend of mine that she loved the church. You know, she wanted to go to church. She wanted to give her life to God. And she wouldn't go. She kept saying she couldn't go because she wanted to get right, because she worked in a nightclub and stuff like that. And so she passed. She left her body before she was able to make them, and she couldn't bring herself to go. You're saying, and there's so many like that, you know, the deal is to go to the room, how you are, come as you are, and the current will take you and take away the unwanted. Okay.
Because what she did have is she had the desire.
She definitely
did. Desire mixed with faith gives you the facility to act on your desire.
Right.
But what happens is that the false egoism gives you doubt. Oh, you're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You're too caught up in the material world. You're too caught up in
Right.
material enjoyment. You're not gonna be able to do
Right.
this.
Right.
So then the mood of being the doer, the controller, takes over and says, okay, I'm gonna get myself right first.
That's it. That's what she's going. Yes.
But there used to be a play on Broadway years ago called Your Arms Are Too Short to Box with God.
Oh yeah. I remember hearing. Yes.
Yeah. So the idea is that the individual soul doesn't have the spiritual capacity to box with the material energy of God.
Right.
So therefore, it's recommended that you simply have desire and then surrender. You understand? And the first part of surrender is 3 different phases. The first stage is called prapati. Prapati means the desire to surrender. When you have that desire, and then you turn that desire towards sadhu guru, then you get faith, and faith gives you the power to then act on that desire. That becomes the 6 angas of Saranagati. Anukulya Sankalpa Pratikulya Vivajana, accept what's favorable, reject what's unfavorable, etc.
Very good. Very good. A1, you're unmuted, so all you gotta, let me know, and I can help assist you if you want to speak. So we open the floor for any type of discussion. You could go ahead, Manager. Yes.
Jai Haribol, Hare Krishna. This is so wonderful. Things that we already know, but to speak on them again and to go over it. Strata, faith. Is so very important, because that's foundation to me, because that helps you do everything. Chant, practice the 4 regulative principles. You have to have faith for any of those things to transpire, to grow. And so that seems like that's more of like the foundation for us.
Yeah, Strata opens the portal. Your
Mm-hmm.
faith and your desire opens a portal which allows the spiritual energy coming from the heart of sadhu and guru to subsidize and facilitate your ability to then practice, to act on your faith and on your desire.
And how do we build on our faith and be confident in our faith to move forward? Because like
that comes from sadhu sangha.
Yes.
Sadhu sangha means the association of high class of Vaishnavas.
Right.
We should try to associate primarily with those who have some realization. Right? Some people have information.
Got it.
Understand? But better, because information is one thing, but information doesn't carry the potency to affect the heart.
Yes, you're right.
What it does is it feeds the mind. So you get a lot of data, but it doesn't have the potency to make changes in the heart. So actually it's described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Satam prasanga mama virya samvido. So the word satam means the same thing as sadhu. Prasanga. So the prefix pra means prakrishtrupein. When you are completely desirous and you have your element of faith, and the person whom you're associating with is qualified, it creates what is called prasanga, complete proper association. Satam prasanga mama virya. So the word mama here, Krishna is saying my, mama, my. Virya means power or shakti or potency. Samvad. In the conversation between those 2 people, 3, 4, 5 people, whatever it might be, the power in the conversation, like we're having a conversation now, the power from the proper level of association, it means you have desire and faith, and the speaker has some realization and quality, it allows the portal to open where the power of God comes through and has an effect on the heart. Bhavanti rit karana rasanayakata. So bhavanti means it causes a unfoldment in rit means the heart. Bhavanti rit karana. And then it goes to the ear. Now information does the opposite. Information goes into the ear. It's being processed by the intelligence in the mind. It may not ever reach the heart.
That's it. That's it.
It may not ever touch the heart.
Yes.
But when you hear Harikatha, real Harikatha, and the person has some realization, Satam Prasanga Mama Via Samvido Bhavanti Rit, it goes to the heart first, then it appears in the mind, intelligence, and so forth. Yes.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Especially this age, this information age, where you can go and at just a keystroke, boom, 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 you can find out what you want to find out. But if it's not connecting, then it's for naught. Yes, very
Yeah,
good.
there's no, like, you can go to Chat GPT and you'll find so many things,
Yes, yes,
information-wise.
yes,
But Chat GPT doesn't have the potency to open that portal.
right. Very good. Anyone else? Please, please, we,
We have about
technically,
45 minutes
we have
left.
4 minutes, but you know, yes. This is
Jai.
good.
One more thing.
Ready, show? And
Jai,
then
a
also I
good
got offer my
example.
Dundavats to David Databubu. I think David Databubu is on. I've not seen him in many years.
Jai Haribo. Is anyone
Right.
else, please, have anything else to ask? You know,
No,
because
you can also go show as long as you got questions, you can go.
okay, because a good example of what we're talking about is person being able to open up the heart is
Mhm.
our own beloved gurus, you know,
Yes.
sadhus, you know,
Yes.
they get the heart to pumping, I should say, you know,
Mhm.
because they critique, you know, they make
Mhm.
you want more. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, when you hear Hari Kata coming from Sadhu, then it gives illumination to the heart. And
Yes.
because that illumination is also vested with spiritual ananda vritti, means happiness principle, you desire to hear more and more and more. That's what keeps the connection with the sadhu. So then the more you have association with the sadhu, the more illumination is taking place. And then in your maturation, you start to taste. When your chitta is kind of placid, is not so influenced by the material energy, you start to be able to taste the substance in the Hari Kata. Krishna, like Yadavacharya gave a good example. When he started hearing at a certain point about Shrimati Radhika, etc., then even beginning tears start to come because the influence of hearing the kata touches the heart. So it wasn't an intellectual process. Wow, hearing about Radhika, maybe I should cry. It touched the heart first. And then automatically, because the heart's touched, it brings tears. Now the mind and intelligence become awed by that. Oh my gosh, how powerful is spiritual energy? And then it makes the attraction of spiritual energy, like chanting, reading, serving, it makes the desire deeper because you're tasting something from it.
That's
Very
good.
But we should know the science. We should, like, that's why I started explaining the science. Then there's a science. Maybe next time I'm up for giving the facilitating here to describe the process, because in the process, there's so much of the spiritual science and so much realization. But if devotees are unaware, they kind of bypass it because they're performing it ritualistically. Bhakti Lata.
Yes, go ahead. Bhakti Lata.
I don't really have a question. I just have a comment more so. I just realized that the intimate relationships with the devotees really helps with growing that seed in bhakti.
Yes.
Yes.
And
yes.
You know, like I'll go to the events and the you know, celebrations, and I enjoy that. It feels good, but I realize that the intimate association with the devotees is what really helps me just develop and mature in the bhakti. So I just realized that, and that's just a comment that I realized, because I always think about that seed that's been planted in me to even start on this journey, and it was the association. And even though I wasn't really knowledgeable or aware of what was going on, I look back and I understand now what was actually happening. And you know, I just a comment.
Thank you. Yes.
Wonderful comment, and absolutely true.
I agree with you, Adiji, definitely, because that's, as far as my journey, that's been the difficulty, is the association. It's you know, and going to the temples and that type of, and we won't go, you know, go in that direction right now. But that's been the problem, like the association. So I just agree with you. I'm just amen and just agreeing with you wholeheartedly what you just said. That yes, this type of association I had with Javachari, yes, and he'll be teaching the class next week. So,
Oh, very good.
but just that his association, this association, Harinam, so this has been what's been missing for the 10, 11 years now that I was blessed to be introduced to Bhakti, you know.
And Prabhu, you said there are devotees you have association with in St. Louis?
But we all deal with that. Like that's where we're kind of, it's hard, you know, because our base, the temple here, you know, it has its, you know, its difficulties and things of that sort. So a lot of us, that's where we met. We first got into association with one another, but then it's as we all kind of got, you know, bewildered and disengaged and whatnot. You know, we need to work on that association. So something like this, which is, you know, the plan to send it, like I told you last week. Hopefully, I can get, you know, those devotees, those brothers to kind of come in and join us here.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to see. I'm still got my. I'm trying to see how I can get through St. Louis.
Please, you let me know.
With the
I'll do
schedule.
what I can because Aquivaline, he works at the grocery store right around the corner. I see him, so I can just, it's simple, just going up, and I don't even have to worry about the social media stuff and how that goes. I can go to him and say, hey, you know, Mukunda, he's coming.
Even if it's just a couple of people, you know, and even if it's just passing through in the day.
Yes, that's it.
Because we're in our camper, so we're coming through, and because all the programs are booked already, and you know, I got to leave time for the driving from place to place. But still, if I can get through even for a while, and we get together for a couple of hours and just meet and greet, and then, you know,
I would love it.
Schedule.
I would absolutely love it. Yes, yes. Yes, I'll stay vigilant and ready for it.
No. Oh,
Anyone else?
Hi, Virginia.
oh, good day. I just had a question for you. You were speaking about faith, Shraddha, and Sadhu Sangha, and in my, I understand to a point about what you're saying, and when a disciple, devotee is approaching bhajan, okay, they normally have to associate with the sadhu, okay, and associate with that sadhu, they get that information to help them understand how to stay on that path and how to advance on that path. And without the association of sadhu, it's hard for me to understand how one can actually move forward.
It's difficult because, like, if you have a great desire to go somewhere, but your means, your financial means is meager.
Yes.
There's only two things that can happen. Either you can get subsidized and then you get the means from that subsidy, or you have to have such great desire that the karmic principles in the universe and the spiritual principles at work arrange for you to get subsidy. You understand? Because desire is a very powerful thing. So it is, you're absolutely right that the association of sadhu is indispensable. Now, we're very fortunate that we have so many ways to associate with sadhu. You know what I mean? That we don't always have to travel to this place, that place, but we have arrangements where we can have association of sadhu. We just have to take that when we have that association, we have to take those principles and apply them. When there's application, the potency, just like when, you know, there's some things where you have it, but you have to pour something on it, a chemical, something to activate it. So when you have strong desire and everything, that's all the things you need. Then when you add the sadhu sangha harikatha, it activates that. Understand? So you're absolutely right. It's difficult if you're not getting sadhu sangha sufficiently. You understand?
Yes.
But as you become more mature, you internally are able to access sadhu sangha as well. It's just in a more mature stage. You understand? And of course, you're fortunate because grahastha life, one good thing, grahastha life means married life. One good thing is wife and husband always have association. That's the principal feature of grahastha life, that they can give association one to another. Actually, my Gurudev one time told me, he said, every grahastha has 4 eyes and 4 ears. So you're saying it's like they are one body because they've joined together in the spiritual journey. You understand? That's why, and if a person is not married and desirous of getting married, have to be very careful about selecting the mate. You understand? Because what you're doing is you're putting that person into your already existing karmic portfolio for one, but you're also putting them on the track of whatever spiritual impressions you've had from previous lives in this life. And they can be an obfuscating factor to that, or they can be a propelling factor to it. You
It is a
understand?
learning process. Yes, it is a learning process.
It's always going to be a learning process. There's not really, but here's the thing. There's two kinds of people. A person looks at the ocean and they dive in the ocean with the intensity to swim to the other side. Another person dives in the ocean and they're happy, they're bliss of enjoying the water. So we should look at knowledge not as a future attainment, but as the bliss of being immersed in spiritual realization. Understand? Because some people dive in and they're trying to get to the end ball game of knowledge. I'm gonna learn everything there is to learn about bhakti, but that's not possible for one. Just think about this. Jiva Goswami wrote 400,000 verses. One Goswami, 400,000 verses. And Srimad Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses, but there's unlimited commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. I have one book called Symphony of Commentaries. So this is about 8 different acharyas commenting on each verse.
Oh, wow.
Come on. And also, sometimes the commentary is not on the verse, it's on a word.
Wow.
You understand? It's on a word. Just like it's explained, Tulya Bhagavata Krishna Vibhu Sabhasrai, Prati Shloke, Prati Akshare Nanatakai. Not only every word has meanings, but each syllable has so many meanings. So we should look at the goal of developing love for God, get in that ocean, and all the revelations and knowledge that come along with cultivating that love, bathe in it. Don't try to swim to the other side.
Without the guidance of sadhu is very, very difficult because the mind always taking you in different directions because of those desires we have for life to be the way we want it to be. And with sadhu there, sadhu can see these things within you, and through the association, he can guide you in the right direction.
Also, sadhu's main thing is that they will check the ahamkara. Because the ahamkara, through no fault of its own, its principle is to defend your existence. And the existence that it knows is material. So it always defends your material ideas and conceptions and so forth. So to be comfortable in making that transition into dasita of Krishna, you need to have the constant association of sadhu because they're situated in realization about that.
Yes. I can read them. Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I was just saying, I can read this Shastra and get some understanding about a lot of things, but without the guidance of sadhu, it's hard for me to determine which way I'm supposed to go.
But Virginia, you have a lot of experience now, and you've heard a lot of things. So they're all in your heart, and they're also in the heart of your good wife. So between the two of you, you're very well situated.
Thank you so much.
Very well situated.
Prabhu, Hargo. Comment. This is what I've been very much criticized for even pointing this out, that we have now many temples in America, particularly I'm dealing just with the West. And there are millions of people in each one of these cities. And yet, because those temples have been taken over by mostly Indians, that they're not preaching, nor are they doing Sankirtan. Literally, not doing it. Maybe every once a month or something. My goal, my understanding is this. You were talking about association of sadhu. In order to have that association, the first thing Prabhupada used to always do whenever devotees would go to a new location, he would make sure that the devotees had facilities. So my point is that considering our circumstances, and we know that there's a difference between what we are as black body devotees and white body devotees or Western bodies are looking at it from a different angle. Somehow or another, we need to have temples so that we can grow brahmacharis.
Mhm.
Because without growing brahmacharis, the actual process of doing what's necessary, as Prabhupada originally expected us to do, is
Mhm.
going to be almost, it's not impossible, but it's going to be very difficult.
Mhm.
So my comment, my question to you is there any of us as a group or have the facility and the ability to be able to go and create or to go and just simply find a simple church with a rectory so that we can have the facilities? I know that there are many, many devotees out there who are just waiting to be able to come and have association, because without the association, it is almost impossible
Yes.
to become Krishna conscious. Because we're in the mature or the neophyte state, we actually don't even understand what we're supposed to learn to do, much less be directed correctly. So my question is there, what are we going to do? In other words, how are we going to be able to fulfill the mission of Lord Chaitanya by being able to do Samkirtan? Because the manifestation of Lord Chaitanya is visible when people see Samkirtan. So are we in a position, or there are other devotees who have the opportunity to do that?
Well, I think one of the first things is to be able to outreach to the community. Obviously, bhakti is certainly not based on the body at all, but even in Gaur Leela, in Mahaprabhu's Leela, like among Narottam, Srinivas, and Shamananda, who were the three sort of second generation, so to speak, after our Goswamis, when they received all the knowledge from the Goswamis and all the books, they each went back to their original home places to distribute bhakti. So that was an example that there is a such thing as receiving a commission based on the karmic package that you have to go back and do service in that community. That's why I was really inspired with Harinamananda, Bhaktaranel, and what they're doing to try to facilitate outreaching in the African American community. So I've told a bunch of people about it and so forth and so on, and hopefully we'll build a participation here. And also in traveling and sort of solidifying pockets of devotees. Those pockets of devotees then can work cooperatively together. And if they work cooperatively together without pressure and everything, then they can, by the blessing of Guru and Gauranga, end up with a facility. And like Cleveland is doing very well. There's not quite a facility, but they have the Sangha together, Rajendranand and Ganga, especially Parvati and Chaitanya Mangal, others, Bhakti Lata. They're all working together, the Nishta, so there's a strong group of devotees that are there. And they're helping to sort of keep association with each other. They come on regularly and things like that. So that's I think, the beginning. Just like in the beginning, Srila Prabhupada came, he has very humble circumstances at 26 2nd Avenue. And the majority of the preaching was done in Tompkins Square Park. You understand, the actual bulk of everything. So I think it's true. We need to develop facilities and build the thing, but more importantly is to develop the heart. Because the first temple is in the heart. Then the heart temple manifests into a structure and so forth and so on. Because you got to remember, Srila Prabhupada was sitting in Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, and he saw this whole vision of ISKCON and the whole thing. And he was just sitting in one place in Vrindavan in Radha Damodar temple, and he saw this whole thing.
That's a great point, Prabhu. That's a very good point. And Prabhupada has actually said that. He says that he first of all started chanting. That was it. There was nothing else. There was no other facilities, just simply by chanting.
Yep. It'll grow.
Very
All right,
good.
last question, Ishopanishad.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, I was just commenting on the last question, and the facilities are already there. As you said in your biography, the Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology, IFAST, you guys, the Namahata home programs, it's already there. It's just that we just need more participation. That's mainly what it is. And again, we have to get out of this bodily concept, because Krishna consciousness is not about the body, It's about the soul, the spirit soul. And once we can
Mhm.
We got to keep
Well-
chanting. 'Cause
Each and
we gotta
also,
keep
Well,
chanting.
in,
Yes.
in this case, Prabhu, I take that back. It's not about black or white. It's about
yeah.
even in the West, I have a very
Mhm.
direct experience that I know that there are millions of devotees or thousands of devotees in every big city who
Mhm.
are waiting to become Krishna conscious or who are waiting to have the facility to be able to even hear about Krishna consciousness. But
Mhm.
how are we going to be able to institute this actual Samkirtan hitting the streets? That's my point.
Yeah.
And again,
I
it's
see.
difficult because grihastas
Mhm.
don't have time, facility, and so forth. And if we don't grow brahmacharis, we won't have a group that's capable of going out on the streets every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
We'll certainly work in that direction for sure.
Mhm.
All right, I think I'm gonna get ready to wrap up here. I have to get on the other phone conference for a little while at least.
Thank you.
Bye.
So thank you, Bhakta Ranel, so much. You filled in so wonderfully for Harinamananda Prabhu.
Oh,
And thank
you.
all the devotees for coming on and supporting. I know I reached out to devotees and even Southern Siddha Prabhu's on. He's all the way in Trinidad.
Oh, wow.
And he managed to come on. So,
Thank you.
you know.
Thank you, everybody. Thank
So
you.
yeah, so I really appreciate it, Prabhuji. And I'll stay in touch. I'll try to come as much as possible. I'll certainly try to be on next Thursday for Yadavacharya. I know my senior brother Bhumipati is probably gonna start chastising me for missing the phone
No,
conference.
we don't want
So
that.
much, but I told him this is important for me. I told him this is important for me.
Thank
And I'm
you,
on the
sir.
conference like four other nights a week.
Thank
So
you.
we need to build this, you know.
Thank
All
you.
right, devotees, Jai Dhanavad.
Thank you,
Vancha
sir.
Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindavevacha, Patitanam Pavneva Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri
Hare
Gurudev,
Krishna.
Shri Prabhupada, Guru
Jai.
Parampara ki Jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you very much.
Hari Bol.
Bible.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Hari Bol, Dr. Renell, you
Yes.
sent me a text, so you have my number. I guess I got yours now. I'll reach back out to you.
Yes,
right.
definitely. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next time. Come back next week, please.
All righty, Hari Bol,
Right.
Hari Bol.
Haribol.